Hi folks, I'm Devok, and welcome to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact. And welcome to the final instalment of Hindsight before the NDA is lifted. I'll be working behind the scenes, setting up this series, so you guys can send in your games for analysis. But for now, it'll be less coaching and more pointing out cool things the pros can do. So on that note, let me introduce today's episode. I was tempted to show you the insane match between Life Coach and Dane, but actually I think Joel Larsson's final was probably even better, as he played close to flawlessly. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Joel Larsson, playing on the top of your screen, the Dire player, is up against Mogwai in the bottom side, the Radiant player, in the grand final of the Preview Artifact Tournament. Joel Larsson has a double Solar Khan black-green deck, whereas Mogwai has got a tricolour deck, a three-colour deck, mainly black and green, but also with a splash of red with that bristleback. So we're going to see things obviously start off slowly, as most Artifact games do. The important thing to see here, if you're Mogwai, is that Solar Khan is blocked. And actually, you've got a lot of creeps in this lane. So that Solar Khan is going to be blocked for a long time. And that is precisely what you want. They had deck lists available, so they knew exactly what each player had. So going into this, Mogwai knew that he was going to be on a timer. There were two Solar Khans in this deck, and they're going to look to end things quickly. So the longer you can block those, the better. This mid lane, neither player is really that invested in. This final lane, Mogwai is definitely invested in, because this is the only place he can put red cards. So it's quite fortunate that his bristleback is already pointing at an enemy hero, so we can start to get some armor online. But as you see, Joel Larsson sees this immediately and puts one of his Rebel Decoys down. Rebel Decoy is a 3 mana green creep with 2 attack and 3 health that lets you swap with another unit on your side of the board. So he knows that he can just trade in that Rebel Decoy and get his Lycan really far away from Bristleback. And that is incredibly important, because if that Bristleback were to kill an enemy hero, he would gain 2 armor and just eventually become unstoppable. It's interesting to see both players committing into this middle lane here. I guess they see that this is the lane that they're going to have to fight over, because Mogwai needs the Mogwai needs the right lane, and Joel Larsson needs the left lane. So that middle lane is where they can start contesting one another. Interestingly enough, this phase, the fourth, the turn as people call it, but the fourth hero being deployed here on both sides, neither of them were particularly important for either side. So it was a Riley and an Abaddon, neither of which are the pivotal points of these decks. However, next round we get Chen for Mogwai, which is very important, and we also get a Solar Khan for Joel. So this round, not as important. Next round, keep an eye out. It's a nice little swap Joel Larsson did there. One thing that Abaddon's really good at, and let me just pop back so I can show you guys. So one thing Abaddon is renowned for, and one of his biggest criticisms, is that Abaddon, the only thing he does is survive. He just takes damage, and then he is stuck in a lane for a long time. And in Artifact, mobility is typically a good thing. You want to be able to outmaneuver your opponent, because then you don't have to spend resources like heroes or spells to try and beat them. So Abaddon, incredibly immobile and good at staying in one lane. So for that reason, why not just make him take this Treant's damage? Killing the Treant, and Abaddon next turn can use his active ability, which will come back, and he'll be able to stay alive no matter what pressure is put on him. So a really smart move by Joel to make use of Abaddon's ability, which is only on a 1-turn timer, so he'll be coming back very shortly. So, moving on to the next lane. This is a decent bit of gold for both players as well, 9 gold each, nothing to laugh at. This is actually a really nice lane for Joel Larsson now, because he can just take this Bristleback. This Bristleback is stranded here, and even gets the +1 from the Vormata. So an interesting choice to buff up his units, but he now has a 3-5, a 5-3, and a 5-11 all in that right-hand lane, which is putting a lot of pressure on that tower. That Radiant Tower only has 24 damage. And if you think back, not only a couple of minutes ago, I was saying that Mogwai needs to win that right lane, because that's where his Bristleback is. That's the only place he can put red spells. And if Joel Larsson has already finished taking it by the time any of the good red spells come around, then that was basically an entire wasted lane. And again, don't forget, Joel Larsson's win condition here is Solar Khan, which is coming out now. He hasn't even used that yet, and that tower's already down to half. I'd imagine he won't put Solar Khan in that final lane. Probably going in the middle lane. Yeah. So in the middle lane, you've already got a Rebel decoy here. So you can start bouncing that Solar Khan around if you need to. That was a ridiculously bad arrow. So if he needs to move that Solar Khan, he can. This is a very unfortunate arrow. That is a shame. You really want this Solar Khan to be pushing straight forward. If for no other reason than it will get a card out of Mogwai. But Mogwai might choose to block with the Aglodi Vandal here anyway. It'll stop his PA from dying and it will kill his Solar Khan. While also Aglodi Vandal doing its ability, which is a play effect, which deals 4 damage to the enemy tower. So just a nice bit of chip damage, and Aglodi Vandal is basically the epitome of value. You can use him in any sort of way and he'll still be able to get that initial 4 damage out, as you can see them hovering the card there. He could also go with a Furline Mantle to keep PA alive, but I don't think that's the right play here. You want to save that for somewhere where you can't keep your hero alive just by playing another card. So he does go with the Aglodi Vandal. Now we could see a Fountain Flask or a Traveller's Cloak on Solar Khan. So the best way around to do this, I'm going to pause here. So this is another thing to point out. So why didn't he use Fountain Flask? He had a Fountain Flask available, just here. Why didn't he use that to bring Solar Khan back up to her initial total of 6? Well, it's simple maths really. So if you Fountain Flask this turn, Fountain Flask, then Solar Khan this turn, I'm just going to draw a nice little table here, Solar Khan this turn, and then next turn. So Solar Khan this turn goes up to 6, and then fights with this Aglodi, and then next turn goes down to 2. Then you can put Traveller's Cloak on top, and she'll go back in the following turn, she'll go back up to 6 from 2 in the next turn, right? However, if you use Traveller's Cloak first, she goes up to 6 now, then down to 2 from fighting the Aglodi, and then on your next turn, use Fountain Flask, and her maximum HP is actually 10 by now, so then she goes up to 10. So if you've got something like this, it's always better to get the equip on first, because then you're increasing your maximum health, and Fountain Flask states heal a hero up, or heal a unit rather, up to full. So a nice little play here. Joel Larsson might end up using the Fountain Flask somewhere else, but for now he's got that play available if he needs it. And dropping in Assault Ladders in mid, just to use up the spare mana. Assault Ladders in this match is just something you can throw out, because you have 6 copies of it with your 2 Solar Khans. So now we see a Furline Mantle on Riley, or Debbie as she's now called, and that is actually a really good hero target for Furline Mantle, because she only has 5 health to begin with, which is basically nothing in the Artifact. So, what will Hefler Kumplin, or otherwise known as Joel Larsson, be looking to do here? He might be able to intimidate that Riley away, but that is very risky. You might just, as he does, decide to develop even more creeps. So this puts a wider board out, and a wider board with Assault Ladders is a scarier board. And this is a nice play here too. You were never going to kill the Riley with the Abaddon, so swap it for the creep, keeping your Rebel Decoy alive. So this Rebel Decoy has nothing attacking it now. So that Rebel Decoy will stay alive, and then you can continue to swap every single turn. And this is a very interesting answer by Mogwai. He decides to go for the Disciple of Nevermore, which makes all of his units that much weaker. He's not getting a kill on anything this turn extra, except for that Selfish Cleric, and his Abaddon just used the ability like you saw there, and stayed alive perfectly. So this lane now is going pretty well for Joel Larsson. Mogwai does have a Revtel Convoy, so he could put the Revtel Convoy in this spare space. I don't have control of the camera here, unfortunately, so yep, so he could put the Revtel Convoy as they're looking at it. In future episodes, hopefully we'll be able to control the camera, but who knows. So he actually decides to go for a Bronze Legionnaire. I would have liked the Revtel Convoy here, because that would soak up 20 damage, and it would have 3 attack, because its attack is half of your gold. So Revtel would have been nice there, and it's often difficult to find a good spot for a Revtel Convoy. So I really would like to see it here. It would kill the creep and stay alive itself. And if Joel Larsson had used Divine Intervention, it would kill the creep and continue to stay alive. I guess this was his play though. He wanted to use Ramesh Blessing, which is kind of okay. So I like that Mogwai. That was a heads up play. He decided to buff all of his units by 3 attack rather than just occupy that one space and do a bit better than before. So here we are in the next buy phase. I can't really see what's going on. Mogwai bought a Traveller's Cloak, spending 3 of his gold, and we'll see now if Joel Larsson spent any of his. Deployment wise, Mogwai really needs to decide to win a lane. Currently he isn't winning any. Maybe technically he's winning this far left lane, but the rest of the lanes are kind of a stalemate, and the tower damage is already in favour of Joel Larsson. So we see here the PA has curved into Solar Khan, so ideally you want to be able to block Solar Khan's tower damage somehow, which unfortunately you've only got Disciple to do, while making sure you do get that kill. So, Mogwai doesn't have initiative, it is Joel Larsson with initiative, so he's actually going to gank, and he's going to choose to kill off that Riley in the middle lane, which is a nice move. You were going to lose your Solar Khan anyway, and this might be him deciding, you know what, I don't want to go for this far left lane. And even if I do choose to, all I was losing was 6 health. But with that Disciple of Nevermore, you're now losing back up to 12. So left lane is almost a decided victory for Mogwai, especially with one hero coming back for both of them in the next but one phase. Now here you've got another decision. Do you want to save your Reptile Convoy? The answer, sorry, not Reptile Convoy. Do you want to save your Rebel Decoy? And the answer is yes. You basically want to keep this little guy alive for as long as possible. But you kind of want to bait out some enemy mana first. So I'd almost be tempted to either use your Assassin's Veil, or start developing a Savage Wolf. No, you don't want to. You never want to develop a Savage Wolf. Oh, there we go. I was about to say you never want to develop a Savage Wolf while the enemy still has 6 mana, because this can be punished. Now, if the enemy only has green, but you know that they have cards that they can play to kill this unit off. Of course, you could then suicide with the Rebel Decoy, so I kind of like this play a little bit, but it's not ideal. I'd almost be tempted, as you were getting 20 damage on the tower, I'd almost be tempted to pass first as Joel Larsson, and then see if Mogwai wants to try and answer something. Because you could just lose this wolf, or you could save the wolf and play it in a lane that is better for you. Either way, we shall see what happens. I would probably block the wolf. Oh no, you are going to block the Solar Khan. Fair enough. So now that's actually really clever, because if you try and swap the Solar Khan with the Rebel Decoy, the Solar Khan will just die to the creep. Of course, we know he has an Assassin's Veil and a Fountain Flask, so that's not going to happen, but I would still swap, most likely, just so Solar Khan has a straight line. Because at the moment, she's stuck behind 20 health. Yeah, okay, so they do swap. So Solar Khan this turn isn't hitting the tower. Next turn, will hit the tower, unless there's a creep that spawns in front. But that Reptile Convoy is just a bit of an annoying blocker now. Now onto this final lane. You have a Fiscus Nasal Goo here, so you can use that. And there's a little combo you can use here. So, if you're Mogwai, so the Radiant player at the bottom here, you have 6 mana, but you have 2 4-mana cards and one of them is Selemane's Favour. Selemane's Favour should not be seen as a 4-mana card. Selemane's Favour, if you're playing it in your current lane, is a 2-mana card. Because, and let's do some maths on the board here, so you have 6 mana, you spend 4 of it for Selemane's, which is 2, but then Selemane's gives you 2, so you get an extra 2, and you go back up to 4. So then you have 4 mana, and then you can cast another 4-mana spell, like Viscous Nasal Goo. So the order in which you play here is important. You want to play Selemane's Favour first, if you're going to be playing it in this lane at all. You also have things like Traveller's Cloak, should you want to play that, or Intimidation, which doesn't really get you too much of an effect here. Intimidation, if you don't know, you cast it on an enemy unit, you cast it on any unit, and it moves that unit to a random other lane. So yeah, here we see Mogwai going for the combo. It's not really a combo, but he's going for the more appropriate play of a Celermain in his favour into probably a Viscous Nasal Goo. Now the question is, who do you want to put this Viscous Nasal Goo on? And I'd probably say Debbie, if anyone. He does actually go for a gank, so here Debbie only has 1 health left. And you're now locked out of green cards. I would probably still go for it. You're not going to have many chances to do this, so I would Viscous Nasal Goo and I would do it on that Debbie, because Lycan isn't taking damage, and he has 11 health anyway. So the chances of that -2 armor really mattering are slim to none. So he does put it on the Debbie. Joel Larsson answers with a Fountain Blast to keep Debbie alive this turn. That's a little bit questionable, but you do want to make sure you have access to black cards in that final lane. And with only 19 health left on that final tower, it's getting to the point where you could probably just grind it out. If Debbie survives 1 more turn, you cast 1 more black spell, then she dies and you can redeploy her, and you're perfectly fine with that. Joel Larsson with a massive 13 gold is able to purchase some pretty nice items. He now has a cloak, a salve, and a broadsword, which is +4 attack in the weapon slot. Mogwai choosing whether or not he wants to go for this from investments, or maybe just pick up a healing salve. I'd probably go for the salve. Yeah, there you go. Because your tree is getting pretty low in health. Your Phantom Assassin is pretty low in health. In fact, a creep would kill her. A creep doesn't spawn in front of her, but it still would have killed her. So a healing salve was the right option for him to go here. Joel Larsson actually cannot play anything in this lane. Well, he could healing salve any of these 4 units, but I don't think he will. Now the question is, if you're Mogwai, do you go for tower lethal this round? You can slay to get 2 extra damage, or you can vandal and you can finish off this tower this round. And I think that's what you do, unless you want to try and go for the ancient. Now if you want to threaten an ancient rush here, you need to both use slay and a Glody Vandal, because you need to keep your Disciple of Nevermore alive. So Mogwai wants the option to ancient rush. Black with Disciple of Nevermore is very good at ancient rushing, because it does give +2 to your entire group. So he will do lethal to this tower this turn, and then it's up to Joel Larsson to either outrace him or to try and stop him getting the ancient in this lane. He even goes for a cloak onto the PA there, which I quite like. By the time you come around to your next round, you might not have the option to keep her alive, because you could have deployed the Solar Khan and just done a no accident and killed her off straight away, thanks to the -2 armor. So Joel Larsson has a slay here. Does he choose to slay the Reptile Convoy? It is one of the biggest units in Mogwai's deck. I think he knows that. He should know that from looking at the deck list. But instead, he's going to go for a Healing Salve and Solar Khan for now. Now, that could have just been sort of a temporary waiting to try and bait out some more cards from him, but it's not going to happen just yet. I would also maybe try and like him to bait that Hand of God out. You do need only 3 mana for Slay, so he is definitely going for Slay here. You don't put that card there if you don't have Slay, because you only have 3 mana left, and that Reptile Convoy will immediately destroy your Selfish Cleric. And he goes for the Slay. So the only option that Mogwai really has here is if he wants to use Intimidation. He could use Intimidation on Solar Khan and get her out of the lane, and thus remove 12 damage from his tower. But I think leaving it as it is probably the best bet. But he's going to go for the Intimidate. Okay, so Solar Khan into that final lane. Broadsword now on Abaddon, just to try and get some more pressure in this lane, I guess. He is a safe bet to have it on, like I said at the very beginning. He isn't going anywhere. Now this tower is definitely dead. Neither player wants, well, Mogwai cannot play anything here. Not that Joel Larsson knows that, and Joel Larsson doesn't really want to be playing anything here. Unless he maybe wants to try and threaten for Ancient, but I don't think Arm the Rebellion even does that. I think you're happy with Bristleback, stranded in a lane that you're winning, and you don't want to try and buff just 2 creeps. So, everyone passes, I think, is the right move here. I mean, Mogwai has to pass. I don't know why he took so long to not pass. Maybe trying to bait Joel Larsson into thinking he had a red card, because if you can't play anything, it doesn't automatically make you pass. It's up to you. So you can hold that timer for a long while, making the enemy think maybe he does have a card he can play. So it's all about the mind games in Artifact. Highly encourage you to get used to trying to outwit your enemy, as well as just outplay them on the board. Obviously Joel Larsson hard committing for that mid lane, and we don't expect anything different. The only issue is that Solar Khan would probably be spawning, well no, okay, that Solar Khan will definitely be spawning in front of Treant Protector. Now Joel Larsson's deck does have 4 Rebel decoys in it, so there is a high chance, he's used 2 of them I believe, so there's a high chance, a relatively high chance, that you will be able to swap that Solar Khan so that she can hit the tower, but it's going to be difficult. And the real MVP here are these 2 creeps spawning for Joel in this lane, because everything here has -2 armor. So every creep in that lane is effectively doing 4 damage, at least, for Joel Larsson, and is soaking up a decent chunk of damage as well. So that creep on the right is soaking up 14 damage and killing the Glody Vandal. And there is nothing, really, that Mogwai can do about that. He's just going to have to take it. So that's only 4 damage. And that was supposed to be a lane that had Ancient Pressure. Now Chen's ability, Holy Persuasion, you see the casters are hovering over here, that is ready. So you can use that on, say, the Savage Wolf, which is already a 5/7 creep, and steal it over to your side. In fact, you can steal it, and then use Hand of God to make sure nothing dies in this lane. And there's no way that Joel Larsson can interrupt that, because he has Intimidation, yes, but you have 2 green heroes. And that's quite important. As it gets to later stages in the game, even if you don't know what you're playing up against, the chances are they have some way of just completely annihilating one hero. So, if you need to use a combo of multiple sort of cards in succession, make sure you have multiple colours, or multiple heroes of that colour in your deck. Or in this lane, rather. So here we have Chen and Treant Protector. If you only had one of them, then this Intimidation would just completely get rid of it, and you wouldn't be able to cast your Hands of God. But because you have 2, even if Joel Larsson probably isn't going to do this because he knows that you have 2, but say you were against a slightly poorer player, maybe they realise that, oh, he's making a lot of trouble with this Chen, I'm going to intimidate him, get rid of it. You can still cast Hand of God through your Treant Protector, and everything else in this lane is super happy. Let's turn that into like a happy face. On with the video. So, point being, 2 heroes of one colour if it's an important turn in that lane, if you need to cast those spells, because he could well have easily put one of these heroes in the right lane, but he doesn't really want to, because he's not threatening there. It now basically is a competition for this middle lane. Both players have taken 1 tower, and now they're both vying for this middle one. No accident is nice there, it brings the Savage Wolf into kill threshold, but there we go, the Hand of God. So, Joel Larsson has a couple of choices here. He can TP out and try and fight for a different lane, use that Time Portal scroll on Solar Khan. He can intimidate one of these buffed heroes, which is exactly what he's going to do. So he's going to intimidate the hero in front of Solar Khan, and now that's 14 damage on the tower. And Mogwai has no answer for this, because he's used 7 of his mana. He wouldn't really have an answer for it anyway, but again, Joel Larsson doesn't know that. He waits for Mogwai to use all of his mana, bar 1, which he knows that he doesn't have any 1 mana spells that he can cast, and then he goes for the play. So that was really nice there, and he got a good chunk of damage. That tower is on 1 health. He now needs to just do 1 damage in that lane to win. This final lane, Joel Larsson needs to teleport something out. You've already got Abaddon in the middle lane, so you probably want another black hero. And I would say Solar Khan with that Assassin's Veil, or whatever it's called, yeah, it is Assassin's Veil, isn't it? This lets you choose where your combat arrow goes in any of the 3 directions. So you want to TP her out just so she can reuse that. You do have to worry about Mogwai taking this tower though. Like, you don't have to worry too much, because Bristleback's arrows have been terrible and he is again hitting a creep. But, oh, so you are just going straight for the teleport. So you're now going to lose your Riley here, because the Keenfolk Musket is just going to shoot her down. Oh no, goes for the creep, that's an extra 10 damage on the tower. That's actually quite clever, because Retreat and Protect does not take in damage. So I like that play from Mogwai, seeing that there was a creep that was more important than killing the Riley there. He did have 9 mana still, so Joel Larsson could have ended up casting 3 Assault Ladders, or something to that effect, but I guess Mogwai at this point, he needs to go for damage. He's basically in a race, because there is 1 health left on this middle tower. Now, I'm going to point something out to you here, and it's not going to be for any particular reason, but this is something you really want to get used to in Artifact. Mogwai has 2 gold, which you can see down here. Joel Larsson also has 2 gold. The cheapest item in Artifact costs 3 gold. I will leave this here as like a reminder, but there's a reason why you want to track your enemy's gold. So, we see Solar Khan coming back this round for Joel Larsson. He's probably going to go mid, right? You need to go mid, that's where the 1 damage you need to do is going. But no, Joel Larsson put Solar Khan in the leftmost lane. Now, if you haven't watched this match already, please feel free to go in the comments below. If you see what is happening and why he's doing this, comment before you watch the end of the video, and I don't know, I'll give you a big gold star for getting it right if you do manage to. So, his Solar Khan is in this first lane, blocking an enemy creep and blocking a Phantom Assassin. This has opened up more mana for him, but more importantly, it allows him to kill off this Phantom Assassin. Now you'll note that there basically isn't any way to save this. He could put Traveler's... oh no, he already has a Traveler's Cloak on PA, so yeah, PA is basically dead. So you can also think of it that way. I mean, a Healing Salve might have saved her. I'm not entirely sure what that PA's full health is. So, Joel Larsson is going for the trade. Now that's questionable because you only need that 1 damage in middle lane. Could you have not put Solar Khan there, made your board a bit wider? Assassin's Apprentice would have made it so that you were so close to making it wide enough that you could beat through. But no, he goes for the kill. So in mid lane, what are we looking at here? Well, 1 damage is all you need, but you're losing 15 this turn. It might be worth using something like a Steel Strength to try and make sure you don't immediately die this turn. I would actually like a Steel Strength on the Riley for the Abaddon. So Steel Strength takes 4 attack away from a unit and gives 4 attack to a unit. So that would allow Abaddon to kill Savage Wolf, and it would give Riley 3 less attack. Well, 4 less attack rather. But instead he goes for the block. I mean, you still have enough mana to use Steel Strength, so I do like this play. You could equally use Aphotic Shield on Abaddon, giving him retaliation, enough to kill the Savage Wolf. Basically this turn, this Savage Wolf is already crazy. Like, he's got 6-9 stat line. You want to kill this as quickly as possible. But it doesn't seem like that was Joel Larsson's plan. Again, a friendly reminder, look at the gold. I'll explain when we get to the end of this round, but it is an important piece of information for this. So just making sure his units stay alive, because you will need units going into this latter turn. And you notice Abaddon's ability is on a 1-turn cooldown, so next turn, Abaddon can pop that, and he is damage immune. Now, Mogwai does have 3 coup de grace. I know I'm saying it wrong, but deal with it. I can't say it the other way. I'm English. He does have 3 coup de grace in his deck, so he can go through damage immunity. But he has to reliably pick those up. Now, an Unearthed Secrets will allow him to draw 1 card this round. Armor Rebellion here doesn't do an awful lot. It does make... oh, that's nasty. So, by using your mana in this lane to buff the middle lane, you've made it a lot harder for Joel Larsson to finish out the game. He needs 1 damage, but you now have a huge lane. So Joel Larsson's only hope now is siege damage, basically. So a Aphotic Shield here on a creep, that is a permanent bonus. Let me just flick back here so you can see. Aphotic Shield is a permanent bonus that will give a unit retaliation, and it will also cleanse off any negative effects on them currently. So you can place that on a hero, and every time that hero comes back, it will have retaliation. But instead, he put it on a creep to make sure he killed that bristleback. So, he now has 13 gold, thanks to killing that bristleback and the creep. So before this, in the middle lane, he had 6 gold, now he has 13 gold. If we zoom back all the way to the beginning of this round, because remember I told you that gold was very important, and this will all make sense. So here we go, here is the deployment for this round, where he puts Sulakan in the leftmost lane. Come on Joel, put your hero down. I'm just here to make a very important point. So 3 gold is the least expensive item in the shop, and they're things like healing salves, traveller's cloaks, short swords, that sort of thing. Now your enemy's gold pool doesn't update until you've drawn all your cards. At least I think that's when it does. It's definitely not during this deployment phase. So now we're in the lane. Now while you're drawing cards, you see right before your eyes, despite there only being 3 gold items, Joel Larsson had 2 gold, and he now has 1 gold. What is the only thing you can do in the shop that costs 1 gold? You can hold an item in the secret shop. This tells you that Joel Larsson saw an item that he held to win him the game. He saw an item that was worth spending a gold on to make sure that he had that next time around. And you'll see that go down, and again this is very important as to why you should track how much gold is being spent. So, drawing cards, and what do you know, he spent 13 gold. There isn't anything, as far as I'm aware, that costs 13 gold. However, there are a lot of things that cost 3 gold, and a couple of things that cost 10 gold. Now, your 10 gold options are a Clazarim Hourglass. Clazarim Hourglass, that's a G. Clazarim Hourglass, which is a health item. It gives you +4 health, and every time your opponent draws a card, it puts +1 lock on it, which means they can't play it. So that would be annoying, yes? However, your other option is a Red Mist Maul, which we see right here, which gives the hero +2 attack and +5 siege damage. Siege damage, if you don't know, if your hero that is equipped with siege damage is blocked by a unit, that damage is dealt to the tower, straight through the creep. So here we see Joel Larsson, he needs 1 more tower, and he now has an item, Red Mist Maul, that has siege. He is still worried here. There is a there is a black hero, and this deck has PA. So even if he made his Abaddon damage immune, it could get coup de grace. So ideally, he wants Mogwai to use his mana first. Now he only has 3 mana, he has 0 way of killing Abaddon. Because you see his deck list, you know that he has no sort of disarm or anything like that. At this point, Joel Larsson knows it's basically over, he's won. Because there is nothing Mogwai can do to stop this Abaddon attacking that unit in front of him, and therefore hitting the tower with the Red Mist Maul that he overwrites with. Now why do you play this on Abaddon? He already has an item. Well, because Abaddon is damage immune. There is absolutely nothing he can do to answer this. So now you see, here we have Red Mist Maul equipped, so Abaddon has +5 siege damage. Let's see if I can write siege with this pen. There we go, +5 siege. And now this tower is taking 5 damage because Abaddon is hitting this creep, and the siege damage is bouncing onto the tower. The hold item button in the secret shop effectively just won $10,000. I'm not sure how you feel about that. Well, it was a $10,000 tournament, right? He only went away with X number of thousands. The hold button won thousands of dollars before the game is even out. I guess the point I want to make here is, as it goes into the second game, which is even more of a landslide, the point I want to make, I'll just leave this playing in the background for you. The point I want to make about that is that such a simple mechanic that people overlook constantly is already winning potentially thousands of dollars in Artifact. This game is incredibly deep, but sometimes it's the most basic things that get overlooked. You're worried about trying to make sure your huge board of creeps survive so you can stall out that one more turn. But because you were worried about that, you didn't keep track of your enemy's gold. And if you had, you would have known that either a Clazareem Hourglass, which would have been annoying for you at best, or siege damage was coming your way. You would have potentially been looking to work around that. Anyway, at the end of the day, Mogwai didn't have a coup de grace, so he wouldn't have been able to save it, but you could at least try to bluff into it. So, not necessarily a misplay on his side, just incredible play by Joel Larsson, so massive congratulations to him, and I hope that he was able to teach some of you guys out there a thing or two about Artifact. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed the commentary, feel free to hit like or subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And as always, I'm Divok of the Artificers Guild, and I'll see you next time.